GM Coin Bureau fam, and welcome to another episode of Crypto Twins Q&A. Gio and Jess, how are you?
Good morning. Back at it again. How are you doing?
Great. It feels like a long time ago since we've done one of these.
This is true.
But it's you know how it is. I think that we say it before. It's like in crypto, it feels like dog years, right?
Yes.
1 week, 2 weeks feels like an eternity, right? So it's been a crazy week.
Well, last time we had a Q&A, I think it was around the kind of peak euphoria, Bitcoin hitting 60K. So we had some of the crypto songs.
Exactly,
and now we've had the retracement back to 60K, and we're all, dwelling in the fact that we're not as rich as we were a few weeks ago. So
remember the Q&A with the Google goggles, the crazy Bitcoin goggles. Yeah, that was just a brief after Bitcoin reached 60K.
Yeah.
And here we are. But be that as it may, we've still got a really exciting Q&A for you guys. We've got a lot of really good questions, including dead blockchains.
Yeah.
What the hell is going on with ETH?
Yes.
SEI versus SUI versus PYTH, as well as some more information on the upcoming vlog series, A Day in the Life of Crypto Guy.
It's pretty compelling, guys. You don't want to miss out. We're saving that one for last.
So if you guys like these, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and we're going to jump right in with the first question I'm going to ask Jess, and this is from one of our OGs who's always asking us the questions here, and this is from Augustin Hosera, and he's asking, did you guys see the Forbes good-for-nothing blockchains list? What the FFF? Yeah. You see, this is obviously something, in case you guys, just a backstory, about a week ago, Forbes released a list, and they fired a shotgun and fired many crypto communities. And they listed a number of different cryptocurrencies they viewed as dead or zombie blockchains. So, yeah.
Yeah, for context, they'd had 20 blockchains that had been total market value of more than 100 billion, despite the fact they're unproven and have little utility other than speculation for crypto trading. And they've listed them below. We'll have the infographic, so maybe we can add it in at this point, just so you guys can see what we're talking about it. Guy initially shared this on the Discord earlier this week, and then it was quite a talking point within the office, and then it kind of spun out. We spoke about it yesterday on NFA Live 2, for those of you that caught the video. This is interesting. I think I'm going to break it into two parts. First of all, I think we have to touch on the fact that Forbes has done hit pieces like this time and time again. So Dan, our head of research, pointed out that 2 months ago, Forbes released something very similar. And it seems whenever there's chance for a negative FUD piece on blockchains, any TradFi media will take that hit. And it also goes back to the Bitcoin obituary of the fact that, Bitcoin has died hundreds of times in the eyes of TradFi media. And also, I think it's important to look at how these projects have been valued. So they've looked at things like the total amount of developers, the market capitalization, the utility, and how much revenue they make through transactions. And when you look at it, actually, the valuation that they have for these companies, it might be better to value the cryptocurrency companies in a more similar way to how you value startups, rather than how you value fully operating companies, just because there's also such a big thing and trend when it comes to narratives in crypto. I think narratives and ideologies and the kind of the community movement is such a big factor behind the optimism of a project. And it's really hard to value from the get-go how much potential it could have in the future. And also, I think we have to shout out that Forbes hasn't always got it right, and TradFi media hasn't always got it right. So we've made reference, WeWorks had a $47 billion valuation, and that was essentially office space as a company narrative. And then Airbnb, so I actually listened to an interview with the Airbnb CEO a few weeks ago, and he was saying that they struggled to raise $150,000 for a $1.5 million valuation, and now the company is valued at $98.7 billion. So I think first and foremost, these kind of articles cannot be taken as gospel of the perfect equation to value what project has utility and if a valuation is right. That being said, there were a few projects on there that I think didn't necessarily deserve to be on the list. You've had a look at the little list too. What was your thoughts? We've got the infographic here.
Okay, first of all, I'll say that's a very good point that you raised there about the way to value blockchains and cryptocurrencies in general and look at it as startups. Like, I don't know if Uber's reached profitability yet, but it's been unprofitable for years, even before they went and listed publicly. And, there's a thing that you can't use traditional financial metrics. Some people try to, and it's like that. But cryptocurrencies are completely different technologies, completely new meta. So you have to look at all these other things that you mentioned.
Yeah.
So we're coming to the question of some of these. So the ones I feel vehemently against, I think, for one, Monero, this whole idea of good for nothing blockchains, it's not good for nothing. It's good for privacy. I still think it's the premier privacy cryptocurrency, just because it's struggling because governments are trying to block it. Governments are trying to block it because they're worried about it.
Because it's so good.
Because it's so good. They're worried about it because they can't control it, because it's one of the only privacy coins which they don't think has been cracked at all. Mm-hmm. It's fully private from the get-go. There's no sort of opt-in. So Monero, for one, I don't think should be there. I mean, I don't know what their metrics they use. Privacy-centric spin-off. I mean, so I just think Monero definitely doesn't deserve to be there.
Stacks as well. Stacks is one that's on the list, and I think Stacks is one that has been one to watch towards the end of of 2023. Really picked up traction, and it's still got a long way to go.
But I mean, also, if you were looking at the Bitcoin Renaissance, right?
Yeah.
There was the stacks they had at ETH Denver last year. A lot of the excitement was around the Bitcoin L2 space. We'll talk about that a bit later in the Q&A. Stacks is one of these projects which is building on in that space. So I definitely don't think it deserves to be there. And then some of the others, I think another one I said is Litecoin. I talked about this a few weeks ago. I think that Litecoin as a cryptocurrency, although I think that it's always going to be a payments cryptocurrency as an alternative to some of the other Bitcoin spin-offs, which may or may not deserve to be there. Litecoin, I think, is always going to have a need for it. There's always going to be a need for a payments cryptocurrency. It's always been supported and sustained because of merged mining with Dogecoin. And a lot of the payment service providers, and when they integrate crypto payments, they always combine Litecoin with it. So there's always going to be a use case for Litecoin. Just because it's not as much excitement as Litecoin as there are for other cryptocurrencies, I still don't think it's necessarily dead nor a zombie cryptocurrency project. Mm-hmm. And what about you? What do you think? Any other cryptocurrencies you think that shouldn't be there, that should be there?
So I think Stacks is one of the main ones that jumped out for me as something that didn't deserve to be on the list. And then I think there are a few that are on the list that maybe from the time of 2017 era had a huge expectation. And since then, maybe the communities, and we haven't really seen much when it comes to execution. I think EOS is the one that stands out just because it had the largest ICO of around $4 billion. So expectations there are extremely high. And I think that is one of the struggles when you do have such a high valuation or ICO raise, is then how do you execute and kind of meet the expectations for the market? So that's one that I think maybe is probably more justified from the point of view of raising total funding and to see how the money was then spent to amplify the business growth. Yeah,
EOS definitely deserves to be there. I went to check when this came out to see if EOS was still alive. And there's still updates being rolled out. I just don't know who's using it. I don't know who's actually trading on it.
And I've never met, in my years ago into cryptocurrency conferences, I've never met a representative from EOS.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe Block One just likes to stand in a little bit, with a little bit of marketing, maybe 1 or 2 tweets a month just to make it sound like it's alive. But and then the market makers just buying and selling on the exchanges to make sure there's volume. But so those are what we think about from the perspective of.
But let us know your thoughts, because you'll have the infographic now too. So let us know in the comments if there's any that do deserve to be there or any that don't deserve to be on the list. We're very curious to hear from you guys too. Okay, so Rick Blend 22 has asked, why is inflation rising? Gas prices.
I mean, I don't think it's gas prices, right? So gas prices in the US have come down a little bit. I think that the national average is about $3.66 per gallon. So it has been coming down. I think that the main concerns around inflation and what the Fed is looking at and what a lot of people are worried about is the core components of inflation, right? So these are what they call the sticky components. And these are components that are not energy, not housing. So when you go down to core, you exclude energy and housing. And there's actually another measure of core inflation that's even more hardcore than a core inflation, is supercore. And that is basically also excluding things like food and energy and housing, etc. So supercore inflation is like at 4.8%, and this is an 11-month high. So it's not looking good from that perspective. And another reason why core inflation and super core inflation is difficult is because it's not very sensitive to monetary policy. So interest rates, it's like one of these things that's kind of like a necessity, and it's generally services type inflation that is hard to bring down. I think that also you have to think about, and it's reflected in the data as well in terms of the Fed's preferred measure is PCE inflation, right, which came in last month a bit higher than the previous month. It was 2.5%. It came in at 2.7% versus an expected 2.6%. So that's why the Fed is basically very now not happy with the progress that's been made in inflation. Jerome has said there's lack of further progress. So that's why there's all these expectations of a much later pivot, if at all, this year. So it's not gas prices. It's these other components, these sticky core components of inflation that are very hard to bring down. And a lot of it is just expectations. Yeah. So I don't think it's gas.
It's nice that you referred to him just as Jerome. That was very civil compared to Arthur Hayes' blog post, how he refers to
Papa Powell.
Papa Powell, yeah. And Bad Gal Yellen.
Bad Gal Yellen, yeah, man, yeah.
That's my favorite, actually.
The two competing forces of liquidity in the financial markets, Papa Powell and Bad Gal Yellen.
Yeah, with a U, like Bad Girl.
Bad Girl.
Bad Girl Yellen.
Yeah, that would be a good rap album.
Here we go. Another idea. New feature coming soon, guys.
Have you seen Janet Yellen dancing?
No, I haven't.
There's actually a really good Twitter. There's a video on Twitter. I'll try and find it. We can share it. Where she came onto stage dancing.
Is she good? Does she bust a move?
It went down just like you'd expect. Janet.
Okay, good.
It wasn't a good move. No,
I cannot wait. First thing I do once we get off this Q&A is...
It was a bit of cringe. You basically just like people like that, just watch it and then you have to,
watch through your eyes.
Yeah, needed a bit of a preview for it. Trigger warning.
Get in here! Take a seat, sir. Go on. So tell me about these anxieties you've been experiencing. When did they first manifest themselves?
Well, I think they first started when I got into crypto. I started to worry about all kinds of stuff.
Such as?
Well, I became anxious that I was spending, way too much on exchange fees. Like every time I made a trade, boom, more precious crypto gone. And I felt like I was missing out in other ways too.
What other ways?
Well, for instance, why didn't I get a sign-up bonus when I registered on an exchange? I mean, come on, they should be welcoming me with open arms.
That's a common feeling for many people in crypto.
Yeah, go figure. And I kept getting told to buy a hardware wallet to keep my crypto safe, but some of those things ain't cheap, huh? I mean, what's a guy to do?
Well, there's a cure for those concerns.
You mean medication?
No, I mean like the Coin Bureau deals page. It has trading fee discounts on top crypto exchanges. It offers sign-up bonuses of up to $60,000, and it has discounts on the best hardware wallets too.
You mean I just go to the Coin Bureau deals page and I'm cured?
Yeah, absolutely. Just head down using the link down below.
Okay, I'm on my way.
Next question, and this is from Philip Spiceland, and he's asking, what's your thoughts on Osmosis?
So for transparency, and if you are a member of the Coin Bureau Club, you will know that I do hold Osmosis in my personal portfolio. Do you hold Osmosis?
I do not, no.
Okay. So we also had Sunny Algarl, who is the co-founder of Osmosis Labs, who came on the Coin Bureau Discord for an AMA earlier this week, and it was very interesting to pick his brains. We were hoping of meeting him in Token 2049 for the, conferences and that kind of thing, but the weather permitting did not allow it. So we had to move to an online Discord instead, which worked out very well. There were great questions, so a big thank you to everyone that joined. It made me glad that I had Osmosis in my portfolio and optimistic for the future of what they're rolling out. So I'll give you some of the run-throughs, some of the TLDR. So first of all, the Osmosis circulating market cap spiked 400% quarter on quarter of Q3 to Q4 of 2023, which is insane. It reached $961 million circulating market cap. So this is a really recent surge in traction. Lifetime revenue, so Sunny broke down the fact that in the last 6 months, they have activated their protocol fees on the Osmosis DEX. And in that time, they have generated $10 million, which if you kind of work out the expectations, then he's expecting kind of $20 million in revenue year on year as a expected business growth from the founder himself. From user acquisition is currently ranked among the top 5 DEXs, which I was surprised at actually, because it is one that's come out quite recently as kind of a surge in traffic, and it's been around for some time. And it's chain agnostic as well. So this is one thing that we do see a lot with projects that are building on the Cosmos SDK, is that they are really advocates of multi-chain and constantly looking to expand into other realms and other ecosystems too. But the main thing is that the 2 main takeaways that I had from speaking to Sunny, first of all, he is not coming to compete with other DEXs. He's aiming to compete with centralized exchanges. So he is looking to integrate fiat on-ramping, better privacy features. And he's saying, when I want people to come into crypto, I want them to use Osmosis rather than a centralized exchange, which is an interesting goal for a founder to have. I personally like the UX and UI of the Osmosis DEX. I think for one of the non-Solana ecosystem features, it's got a very nice UX and UI. The one thing I would say though, from the UX and UI and community features is, you know how Injectives is like, you're the Injective ninjas?
Yeah.
Osmosis, the Osmosis logo is a kind of mad, crazy scientist.
Oh, yes,
so the community are lab rats.
Lab rats.
So it's like, yeah, what's up, Osmosis lab rats? And I'm not so sure how I feel about that, to be honest.
Dexter's lab, kind of lab rat.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to be a lab rat. I want to can we not get the cooler one? So that's the one bit of constructive feedback I would have. The other thing is the Osmosis founder, Sunny, he's saying that they're looking at focusing on expanding into Bitcoin. So Bitcoin staking, he's saying that Cosmos will be a Bitcoin application layer in the DeFi future. And in the next few months, we will see bigger integrations with the Bitcoin network. And Bitcoin staking via Babylon, but also some others are in the coming months for Osmosis. So I'm bullish.
Bullish, yeah. Can you imagine a war when you've got the Injective ninjas, you've got the Chainlink Marines, the XRP army.
Yeah.
What else we got? The Algonauts, and you've got the lab rats.
Are you just saying this because the Injective ninjas does sound a little bit cooler, and you just want to?
No, you've got all these warring analogies, and then you've got the lab rats.
And then you got the lab rats.
Mad scientists.
But you wouldn't mess with a mad scientist. You wouldn't.
That is true. It could be evil scientists. But I think that to the point around Osmosis, I'm also quite bullish on it. I think that it's got a moat around it in terms of the predominant DEX in the Cosmos ecosystem, but they're really expanding now to interchain. I mean, they currently support 47 chains within the Cosmos ecosystem via the IBC protocol, but they're looking to expand with numerous different bridges. And they're obviously into Ethereum now, and as you mentioned, Bitcoin, which will be a big one, right? Bring in Bitcoin liquidity, and they can use the AMM and features within Osmosis. And then, of course, I think the team is great. Like Sunny's like an OG in the Cosmos space.
Yeah,
very smart. I think that they may be going through a funding round soon. So there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of backers behind the project. A lot of builders as well who are deploying on Osmosis in terms of utilizing the liquidity provision and building their own DEXs on top of it. I think there's Levana and a few others. A lot of projects that came from the Terra ecosystem have moved to Osmosis. So I think as a play, it's probably as a DEX and an AMM, it's probably one of the best out there as a sovereign AMM. The question then, of course, is like token appreciation value. Like, is there going to be some sort of value accrual? Obviously, you mentioned the fees component, but there are quite a few use cases from Osmosis as a DEX, Osmo, that could give demand for utility demand, not only in terms of potentially utilizing them to pay for transactions, but also to be able to vote on where you want to deploy liquidity incentives, which is also quite an important incentive for you to hold the token. I think I'm bullish as well. Also, we know Cryptocito, a friend of the channel, spoke to him a few weeks ago, and he's also, I think he said Osmo is one of his biggest bags, and he's also bullish. So I think if you're bullish on the Cosmos ecosystem, it's a good play.
Oh, it's one of his biggest bags.
I think, if I recall, yes.
That is a big statement. That makes me feel pretty confident in my selection.
There we go.
Okay, so next question we have is from Nashugar, which is say, PYTH, or SUI. Which one has more potential?
SUI. I just learned last week. SUI. It's a Japanese word of water.
Yes,
SUI.
SUI, because I always used to say SUI, and I apologize.
Yeah, I think many people have called it SUI, but when you speak to the founders, you want to respect the wording of their name. So basically, so which has more potential, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess it's a tough one because it's kind of, there wasn't time frame given here, right? And time frame's important because what sort of time frame are we talking for? The cycle, long term. So obviously, do you hold PYTH and SUI?
I hold PYTH and SUI.
SUI. I only hold SUI. I don't hold PYTH. But having said that, I'm very bullish on PYTH for the long term. I think that I've talked about it before. I think it's definitely going to become the predominant Oracle provider within the DeFi space in terms of crypto in general, in terms of high frequency, low latency data coming off chain and bringing it on chain. Obviously, the tech is amazing. The team is involved, and there's a lot of big backers behind it. It was a very valuable airdrop for the community. So bullish in the long term on PYTH. And if you watched, we had a video, CBC subscriber review on PYTH about 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And I remember in that one, basically, if PYTH does become the predominant Oracle provider in the DeFi space, and you have the use case for PYTH tokens basically becomes to be able to pay for these fees and pay for crypto price feeds and price feeds in general, it could at least 20 to 40x. So
after watching that PYTH review, I picked up some PYTH. When that went live on Coinbureau Club, that was when I was like, okay, sold, guys, I'm going to buy some.
I also picked up then, but then I sold out a month after, which I got some gains on it, but not as much as you guys did from holding because I needed the liquidity. So I feel bad about that. But anyway, so yeah, long term I'm bullish on PYTH. Now the question and the reason on short term I'm slightly bearish is because, and I've talked about this before, they got a massive unlock coming in about the 20th of May, so in a few weeks time, a few days time. And this is a big unlock. It's 2.1 billion PYTH tokens, which equates to about 21% of the supply.
Wow.
Outstanding supply, when you've only got about 15% out there already. So that's more than doubling it. So it's big. It's a yearly unlock, so it will only happen once and then another year. But that's a big impact on potential price impact on the market. Now, there's many questions around, okay, is this already priced in? People know the unlock is coming.
Yes.
They've kind of adjusted it. And are people who get unlocked, they're going to be investors or ecosystem, etc., are they necessarily going to want to sell, right? If they're bullish on the long-term one, they just hold it. If they're long-term view bullish, they'll want to hold. They won't necessarily want to sell it unless they really need the liquidity. If markets are tanking, they want to deploy capital somewhere else. They want to crystallize those gains. Maybe they could sell. So that's potential price impact. There's also the question around if there's going to be afterwards or before that, there's going to be more talk around PYTH improvement proposals that would give the tokens themselves more utility within PYTHnet, or more specifically being able to pay for fees. So yeah, I think that's one concern to be wary of in the short term on PYTH. In terms of SUI, I'm bullish as I hold in my portfolio. I think that it's my play on the move programming language. Obviously, I think as an L1, it's probably got one of the most potential out there. I think that a lot of devs love building on it. It's well backed. Got a big war chest. We had that AMA with one of the
with Evan, who is one of the co-founders of Miston Labs and SUI.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a really bullish AMA. And I think that the ecosystem they're trying to build around it is amazing. So if you're bullish on Move and if you're bullish on a developer's blockchain that developers love to use and also easy onboarding, and one that's also seen the growth of TVL over the past over the past 3 months, it's grown by 2 to 3x, and that's because of developers want to use it. So I'm bullish on SUI. They're also going to have a monthly unlock coming in May, but it's not too consequential. It's in terms of supply, it's less than 4% of the outstanding supply. So shouldn't really impact on the price that much.
Just to add to SUI, because I'm bullish on it, and it's because they have some Big Daddy partnerships. So Miston Labs has recently partnered with Google Cloud to enhance the SUI ecosystem. And because the SUI team, their partnership team on their blockchain team, will all form a Facebook and also the Facebook Libra stablecoin guys. So they're able to really pitch to the likes of Google and the big kind of top 5. And I think that will come soon with really strong integrations. So we have the Miston Labs, which is the parent company of SUI, are doing some work with Google Cloud. Also, we had their Basecamp conference in April in Paris, and they announced they have a combination game that has come out with Playtron, which is a kind of game console. I'm not a gamer, so I don't really know what it does, but the gaming community were pretty hyped about it. It's a handheld gaming console that you can play both Web 2 and Web 3 games on PC and mobile platforms, and then earn SUI rewards.
Yeah. So it's bullish on SUI. I think, and I think quite a few members in the team hold it, and we do need to do an update to our main channel video at some point. And then lastly, question around SEI. No, I don't. We don't. None. I don't. I don't hold SEI. You don't hold it. I don't know. I don't know if anyone on our team holds it. I remember we did do a review of it on the Coin Bureau Club about 4 months ago. It's obviously another very highly performant L1 built on with the Cosmos on the Cosmos SDK. It's actually its consensus mechanism is a fork of Tendermint that's called Twin Turbo Consensus Mechanism. It is highly performant. It is a strong DEX built for high speed trading initially.
Yeah.
They did release their version 2. A lot of the hype in about 4 months ago, in the beginning of the year, the hype was around version 2 of SEI, which was played on this parallelized EVM narrative, and they're building up this parallelized EVM component. But since then, obviously, there's been a lot of other projects that have moved and trying to build their own parallelized EVM. One of the big ones, which is coming soon, which there's a lot of excitement about, is Monad. Don't know if you've heard of Monad.
No, I haven't heard about it.
So that's what everyone's focused on now. So I don't know if that's taken out some of the wind of sails. But yeah, I think it's an interesting project. I think that right now, I wonder if that's what's weighing on its price. Yeah.
So if I was going to give you 1,000 USDT now to flip into one of them, because I would pop it in SUI if I could.
Yeah, I'll probably pop it into SUI as well.
SUI.
I think PYTH, like I say, I'm bullish on PYTH long term, but I think that we've got to watch those unlocks because that's a big unlock. Why they did it in a yearly unlock and not over like a quarterly or a monthly?
Yeah, monthly would have been a nicer, more gradual expectation for the market, just to reduce some of that volatility.
Yeah,
but.
So I guess it's probably some of the investors wanted that out,
Which is not a good sign.
Who knows? Okay, next question, and this is from BMM9493. Ethereum ETF? ?
Okay, let's take a look at the ETH polymarket metric. I like to gauge the market sentiment. I like to start with a little guessing game. Nick, guess how much the probability of a spot Ethereum ETF approval by May 31st is?
I checked this a few days ago, so I'm thinking maybe 11, 12%?
11%.
11%.
Oh, it's no fun when you check it because this started off earlier this year at around 50%, 45%, and throughout the year gradually more and more indications have come along that a spot Ethereum ETF is not going to happen in May. I think we'll also get into is it going to happen, full stop. We'll get to that in just a minute. So let's look at the market probability. The fact that James Seyfarth, the Bloomberg ETF analyst, has said that there has been no lack of engagement from the SEC when it comes to speaking about the open dialogue with the ETF issuers and reviewing back and forward what it would mean and how the launch would go ahead, has given them no indication. He said it's very different to the few months before the spot Bitcoin ETFs. And we've got some speculations then regarding the future of will an ETF from Ethereum happen? What's your take on it? I'm actually curious to hear if you think it will happen full stop, because I think everyone's factored in that May, it's going to be a nothing burger.
Full stop in forever or this year? Or
let's start with this year.
This year, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. Because I think that unless we get a change in the SEC,
yes,
that's the main factor, and elections in November, and then there's a lot of assuming if there's a change of guard, maybe next year, but definitely not this year.
Yeah, I think there's so much that's at focus at the moment, and I think one thing that we are seeing is this tug of war between the SEC and crypto companies, and I think the question marks that are surrounding Ethereum at the moment, there is just too much room for error if things get moved and processed too quickly. So I think it is a hold until next year.
Yeah, definitely. I think that also there's many people have come out and said, especially in the TradFi side, and also some of the ETF providers themselves.
Yeah.
So Standard Chartered came out in April, said definitely not going to happen in May, but they still kept their ETH 8K price prediction by the end of the year, which is interesting. And so maybe, but yeah, and there's also the lawsuit for consensus through a spanner in the works there, of course.
Yeah.
And then, but Van Eck, one of the Van Eck head of digital assets, he said, quote, if the SEC approves an Ethereum ETF before the election, I will eat my hodl hat.
At least it's not a John McAfee.
Oh yeah, that is true.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, what is they going to say?
But tell them, because they may not know what the John McAfee...
John McAfee was the security software guy that then became this huge... RIP, yeah. became this huge decentralization, Bitcoin maxi that then would go around the world and just kind of give the adverts of why crypto was amazing. He came out with some pretty outlandish price predictions. I interviewed him a few times and he gave some pretty big price predictions there. It wasn't on the interview that I had with him where he said that if Bitcoin doesn't hit $1 million by 2020, he's going to eat his own dick on live TV. I didn't say it, guys. That was a quote. That was the verbatim quote.
Yeah. Did he?
And I wasn't going to say it, but he told me to give you the context.
Well, you needed to know the context. Otherwise, it's like, what did John McAfee say?
Yeah.
He didn't do that. But
just to clarify, it didn't happen, guys.
Although he's a kind of crazy enough guy, you'd kind of think he may have done it, but no. Yeah. So in terms of and then that's obviously he made that statement, and then of course there's been movement. Like Grayscale re-updated its S3 prospectus for converting its current ETH product into an ETF. And Blackrock filed an amended form, so they're still moving. I don't know if they are expecting and getting ready for a fight, because if the SEC denies in May, then these ETF providers are going to try and attack now.
And they've got some money now because they've made some money via their spot Bitcoin ETFs. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So I mean, but the question is, of course, if they can attack them. Will the SEC now, and there's also this theory around the reason the SEC is going after the Ethereum Foundation, is potentially trying to build up its evidence file to be able to utilize in the case of lawsuits that are brought by these ETF providers.
Yes. So. But also, the question didn't clarify if it was US focused or Hong Kong focused. So this week we did see the launch of the Hong Kong spot Bitcoin and spot Ethereum ETFs. First day of trading, we did see $11 million inflows into the Hong Kong spot Bitcoin and spot Ethereum ETFs, which was a little bit of a below expectation from our market standard. However, Eric Balchunas, who is the Bloomberg ETF analyst, has spoken out and said that actually compared to the market size of the US, this was still pretty impressive and we have seen some pretty good inflows. So that's a little bit of optimism to spread into it's not going to happen this year, in our opinion. Magical CB. Oh, that could be Magical Coin Bureau. What a nice username. What are your thoughts on Bitcoin layer 2s such as BOB, Botanix, and Cetera?
Yeah, this is really interesting. So obviously there's this massive Bitcoin renaissance going on right now, where there's this demand to build on top of Bitcoin, this demand to utilize it beyond just the digital gold narrative, this set and buy and forget kind of thing, like HODL, where you can actually have and build a lot of useful applications on top of Bitcoin and more use cases for it. And it's essential for the Bitcoin network, especially as we approach the level where mining, when block rewards approach zero and fees are important and the major component to incentivize miners to continue working on it. Obviously, these kind of layer 2s can add fee demand, which can sustain the Bitcoin network for a long period of time. There's also the more that's built on top of Bitcoin, the more demand and value there is in Bitcoin. And then lastly, of course, many people want to build on top of Bitcoin because it's the largest and securest cryptocurrency network in the world. And it's got a lot of security because of all the miners that are sustaining it. And a recent Messari report said that building on Bitcoin and Bitcoin L2s are not a luxury, but a necessity. So
I like that one.
Yeah, so that's true. There's a lot of excitement around the Bitcoin L2 space. And you mentioned a few projects here as well. And I actually last week spoke to the CEO of BOB.
Oh, okay.
So they're very interesting. They're a Bitcoin. They're an Ethereum. They're like a hybrid Ethereum and Bitcoin L2. Right, building on OP Stack right now as an Ethereum rollup. But they're basically they combine the technology of Bitcoin and Ethereum that you can allow and build smart contracts. So EVM smart contracts as well as ZKVM smart contracts on top of Bitcoin. And the goal is obviously to create and develop more complex applications on top of Bitcoin. But they're going to go through a few stages. The first phase right now, which is built as an OP stack and Ethereum layer 2. And then phase 2 is a really exciting phase where they're going to go and start incorporating the Bitcoin network with this theory of merged mining. As well, so that that can then utilize the Bitcoin network as security to back up this layer 2, and this will therefore be one of the most secure layer 2s in the world because it's going to have both the Ethereum network and the Bitcoin network that are going to be secure in the chain.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's a nice little. If you can't decide between the two camps, why not meet somewhere in the middle?
That's exactly what Bob is going to be allowing. It's going to be allowing for all the people within the ETH space to be able to also integrate and work within Bitcoin. And a lot of for instance, the Bitcoin, runes, BRC20s, that kind of stuff. They can wrap them as ERC
Okay,
as tokens,
nice.
and then traded them and utilize them on the Bob network. So ETH degens will have an opportunity to trade all these new meme meta on the Bitcoin network. And then the final phase for Bob will be the release of optimistic rollups on Bitcoin made via BitVM. But that's quite some time in the ahead, because obviously right now there isn't an opportunity to settle rollups on Bitcoin. The technology isn't there yet. And then there's Botanics. You also mentioned Botanics. Similar idea in the sense that it's a EVM compatible Bitcoin layer 2. That's going to be proof of stake, right? Mm-hmm. There's not going to be a rollup per se. It's going to be a proof of stake. And it's going to be secured by what they call the spider chain.
Spider chain. Talk us through it.
That's pretty cool. So it's basically a decentralized network of mesh multi-sigs, right?
Okay.
And as the network grows, more multi-sigs are added, and you create like the spider web of numerous different multi-sigs. And the more multi-sigs you have, more nodes operating these multi-sigs, the more secure it is. And this controls the value of this Bitcoin that's staked within this Botanics ecosystem. So it becomes more and more decentralized the more multi-sigs you have, and the more secure the blockchain becomes. So it's a really interesting concept.
So gangster.
Yeah, spider chain. Yeah.
Spider chain.
Because when you think about it, actually, he did a graph and a graphic when in terms of like the different multi-sigs added out, it grows out like a spider's web,
Nice.
So basically they'll also allow for a lot of Bitcoin L3s to build on top of this as well for application-specific use cases. So those are the two that, Cetera is something similar. Like, I think I'm really excited about the Bitcoin layer 2 ecosystem. Obviously Stacks, which we talked about. There's a few others. Yeah. There's B Squared Network. There's Merlin Chain, and a few others, I think, that are building Bitcoin L2 ecosystems and EVM compatible blockchains as well. So
this is just a really exciting year for Bitcoin, because I think obviously we've got the Bitcoin layer 2 ecosystem that is really having a movement of its own. And then we've also got projects like, as you mentioned, Osmosis, Babylon, for example. There are projects that are really working to integrate Bitcoin staking and restaking into another element, which is a field that not necessarily would have incorporated Bitcoin a few years ago. So it's just the utility is expanding, and it's I think people that will come into crypto 2025 onwards will have a lot less tribalism with coins because of how multi-chain and interoperable different blockchains are. It's exciting, guys. Yeah.
Speaking of Babylon, we had that AMA we did with David C., the founder, really smart guy. And Babylon, they're looking at at staking the Bitcoin, at utilizing Bitcoin and staking as well. And then, which you can then also restake with other protocols. Like another one I heard about is Lorenzo, which is building a restaking on top of staking on Babylon. So
much to keep up with.
Yeah, so much to keep up with. But it's really exciting ecosystem. Bitcoin Renaissance, that's a narrative to focus on for this cycle for sure.
And it would make a cool slogan for a t-shirt as well.
Bitcoin Renaissance, kind of like a Renaissance character, kind of like...
I was thinking like an artwork, like a Renaissance.
Exactly, like a Michelangelo's, with a finger pointing at the Bitcoin.
With a little bee.
We should check merch store idea. We're going to go and follow this right now.
Right now,
pop
guys.
It out there. You guys need to buy it to support it, right? Because if it doesn't, then...
Use code CryptoTwins for 10% off.
Yeah.
Okay, next question.
Next question is from Jan Hova. And he's asking the obligatory Dubai question. What's summer like in the UAE?
One word, hot.
I was thinking, that song by Nelly back in the day? Hot in here? It's getting hot in here.
We'd almost got a whole Q&A without you singing the song.
Okay, I'm sorry. I remember that, man. It's good. It's true.
No, it's good. It's
getting hot.
It is getting hot. There's plenty of activities to do. You were saying off-air that this might be the first time that you decide to go into Dubai Mall because, you can get your step count in with the world's biggest shopping mall, because it is a little bit too hot to go outside when it hits August time. So it's best to schedule your travels in then. I love Dubai in summer. I think if you plan it well, you do morning swims before it gets too hot. The sea does get very warm, but there's so much to do here outside of being outside.
Yeah, it's true.
But you'll work your way around it.
It's very well developed for the climate in summer, right? Basically, obviously, everything's aircon. There's many indoor activities. We were talking also about the snow skiing. You can go skiing in the Emirates Mall.
Yeah, you can go skiing in the mall. You can watch like a cinema movie with a little blanket in a snow cinema. It's cute.
And there's outdoor activities you can do. Just time it well. Do it in the morning, in the evening.
Yeah.
And I will also say though, because I don't know, were you here in 2021, 2020 summers?
I moved in 2021 summer, and I moved in July.
Yeah, the 2021 summer, I've from my experience for the last 2 summers, I think it's getting slightly cooler.
Better,
It's
yeah.
getting slightly better, because there were times back in, I remember 2020, I heard stories about 50 Celsius plus,
Yes.
where things would start melting on the streets.
Yeah. The fact that I can walk home from work now and it's the 3rd of May, that wouldn't have been able to happen 2 years ago. It's definitely getting cooler here.
Yeah.
I remember when I first moved here and I went for a run at 10 p.m. around the marina and I was like, why does it feel like I'm running in slow motion? I opened my running app and it was like, feels like 52 degrees Celsius. And I was like, well, inshallah, that's why.
Yeah, exactly. I remember also in 2021, I went at 4 a.m. Technically, that's supposed to be the coldest time of the period because it's been the whole night. And we're talking 35 C, 36 C and humid.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cooled down a lot. I think it's a livable place. Many people still stay the summer here. And it depends, because I think that in winter time, obviously it's delightful here. And that's when a lot of the tourists come. That's when a lot of people who would normally divide your residence only for a certain period of time, that's when they're here. And it then gets very busy. And then you can't do anything. And then everything's booked out.
Ooh,
Traffic.
It's true. Traffic is so good in summer because
like,
everyone goes away. You can get all the good hotel bookings.
All the good restaurants, exactly.
Yeah, so you don't have
Peak
to book
bookings,
ahead.
yeah. So that's what's cool
Chef's
about
kiss.
summer if you do want to be here for some of the time. I'll probably be here for a few months and then travel probably the August time when it's super, super hot. But yeah.
Next question, Devon BC _88. Bitcoin Jesus arrested! ! What happens now? For context, Bitcoin Jesus is Roger Ver.
Yeah.
One of the early Bitcoin OGs, then moved over into Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah. This is actually a pretty sad story.
Yeah.
I think he's quite a polarizing character in the Bitcoin community, especially around what happened with the Bitcoin fork and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's actually also, no one obviously wants, it's quite unjust what's happened to him. If you think about it, if you look at his background, he was originally in 2002, I think, he was selling fireworks on eBay, and they basically arrested him and put him in a federal prison for like 8 months just for selling fireworks without a license.
Yeah.
Which is quite egregious when you think about it, like putting someone in prison in the cage for doing something like that without a license. And that obviously, that changed his perspective of a lot of things in terms of the US government, in terms of libertarianism. And then he obviously, so that could change anyone. And if you go to some of the talks he's done, 2 to 3 years ago, he mentions this as one of the formative times in terms of like what drove him towards libertarianism and his skepticism of the US government, as anyone would feel. And then he was a really early innovator in Bitcoin. 2011, 2012, that's why he got the Bitcoin Jesus moniker, right? He was out there speaking the good word of crypto. Some of the earliest videos of him when he was out there speaking so passionately about it, it's really inspiring. And he organized meetups, and he was one of these early, Charlie Shrem, all these guys, Eric Verhees, he was part of that crew. And he helped, and I didn't know this, he helped fund some of the legal fees of Ross Ulbricht.
Yes, Russ Ulbricht, and also for Peter McCormack as well, with the recent court cases that he was undertaking. So people have come out and said that Roger Ver really helped crypto in quite a significant way. And although he had maybe stepped down from the spotlight in this year, the impact that he had in the early days of Bitcoin was huge. And I think Guy was telling a story a few days ago of how, if people were getting in a taxi with Roger Ver, he would just say to the taxi drivers, like, hey, have you heard of Bitcoin? And and I was sitting down with Roger in Malta in 2018, and he gave me and also all of my camera crew some Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah.
He gave my camera crew more than me, but hey, that's fine, Whatever draws them into crypto. So he really does take it above and beyond. I think this is quite a sad
and
news.
It's even more sad when you think about this. So in 2014, he obviously renounced. He had companies called Memory Dealers, a few of these other companies in the US.
Yeah.
In 2014, he renounced his US citizenship, right?
Yeah.
He moved to Japan and became a citizen of St. Kitts, right? And apparently they say that in 2017, a few years later, he sold some cryptocurrency. But, he basically renounced his UN citizenship 10 years later.
Yeah.
He's no longer a US citizen. He was in a country that's not the US. 10 years later, they came for him,
Some crypto, though, he sold 70,000 BTC for 240 million. So it was a sizable haul. Big. But the US government have no right of ownership of it.
Well, I don't know. We don't know the facts around that. Obviously, they'll try and come to light. I don't know how, if he declared it all on exit. We don't even know enough of the facts. And maybe there's maybe it was his accountant said it wasn't declared. I don't know. But it is really sad. And because he was skeptical of the US government. These guys threw him in prison, right? So, and he renounced his citizenship. He moved away. He'd been living away for more than 10 years. And they come, they grabbed him, and they're taking him back, and they're going to want their pound of flesh. And this is actually really interesting, and I put a tweet out about this. Did you know that the US is one of only 2 countries in the world that has lifelong citizenship-based taxation?
No, I didn't know that.
The other country is a country called, it's Eritrea, which is, if you don't know, it's like a poverty-stricken country in Africa. There's 2 countries in the world that have that.
Wow.
And you can be born, you never move to the US, you never live in the US. You can be born with a US passport, like your parents give it to you or something, and you're born in another country. And for life, you have to pay taxes to the federal government, right? Irrespective of where you live, where you work, global income, you have to pay taxes to the US government. And if you don't want to pay those taxes anymore, in order to renounce your citizenship, first of all, there's quite a long backlog, and it costs about $2,300 to renounce it, and you also have to pay, obviously, potentially legal fees, accounting fees, all that kind of stuff. So just the concept, understand this concept. You're basically born without opting out of having to pay taxes for the rest of your life, unless you pay this renunciation fee, all this kind of stuff to the US government. It's pretty crazy when you think about it, right?
Yeah. It's a scary time. So there was a few tweets that came out from some of the kind of Bitcoin hosts and developers saying that there was also the arrest of the Samurai wallet developers as well. And they were suggesting that this is really a very clear message to the cryptocurrency community. And someone had said, like, there is a Bitcoin dossier at very high government levels right now being worked on. This is not a coincidence, buckle up. And it is quite, a daunting feeling.
Who said that?
A Bitcoin host, a guy called Nico, who's like a Bitcoin developer.
That is, I mean...
It's a strong one, but I'm giving the counter. I'm passionate about it. I've met Roger. I think he's a really nice guy. And I think this is...
Well, I mean, he's probably scared a lot of people, ex-Bitcoin OGs from, if it is the case, who knows? But yeah, that's Bitcoin Jesus, obviously very sad. Hopefully he'll get a deal and they'll allow him to pay some sort of a penalty and he won't have to face a prison term, because that would be awful. To having left your country, been thrown into prison initially for fireworks charge and now having to go back, that would be terrible. Okay, the next question is from ZSaltSZB, and he's asking, will Blackrock issue a stablecoin as they enter the RWA market? Would it make sense?
Interesting. So I think just to look at the scope of the RWA market and the potential, and this is interesting because I recently read a Chainlink report that was looking at the future outlook of the RWA industry. And Sergey Nazarov, who is the founder of Chainlink, was saying that the expectations for the huge positive optimism of the space and how much it could expand is to a $16 trillion asset class. They're very bullish on RWAs and the integrations. So there's huge amounts of money that will be flowing in, and a lot of them is going to obviously come from the banks, institutions, and asset managers. So does it make sense for a company like BlackRock to issue their own stablecoin? If I was BlackRock, I would think so.
Yeah, but haven't they already kind of been doing that in the sense, the Circle, right? They have a big investor and backer of Circle, USDC, obviously. So they invested in Circle in their $440 million round in 2022. They've also, Circle has invested, keeping a lot of their reserves in the BlackRock Circle Reserve Fund, which is like a money market fund in BlackRock. And this BlackRock Biddle fund, this Ethereum issued fund, so this fund issued on Ethereum, there's going to be an off-ramp, easy, seamless off-ramp that Circle has announced from the investors who hold these assets on Biddle to get into USDC. So there's a lot of integrations and implementations with regards to Circle and USDC. So I don't know if maybe they'll just take over Circle. Maybe if they're later on, maybe they'll just buy the company.
Well, the power of influence as well. I think they've probably looked at it like, look, we're looking to have huge expansions into this as a narrative. You have the stablecoin. Why cannot we just? Yeah,
exactly. And speaking of about 3 or 4 days ago, BlackRock also invested. They bought a Securitize. Or invested in Securitize.
$47 million investment in Securitize. So they're expanding out into crypto.
Yeah.
Final question. Build would like to see a day in the life of Guy.
Yeah, well, we've actually...
Guy off camera said, yes, you would.
Guy would love to do that. Guy would love nothing more than the idea of having someone following him around with a GoPro, filming his every move. Guy wakes up. This is his morning routine.
I was going to say, let's paint it out for you guys. This is what it's going to look like.
Okay.
Okay, start.
Okay, I don't know what Guy's personal life.
No, just imagine.
Well, it depends.
You get director's cut.
There is the perception of what crypto influencers are like in Dubai in the media, and then there's the reality, expectation versus reality.
And Guy is crazier than all of them.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you know, wakes up, reads a book, checks the crypto markets, you know. Has a
bit of a morning workout.
A morning workout on the elliptical wheel or on the walk-in. He gets on his scooter.
No, he's got a car now.
Oh, yes, he does have a car. Yes, he's upgraded to so he comes on in his car. It's not a Lambo, unfortunately, but we're working towards that.
It's a Rolls-Royce Phantom, guys.
Yeah.
I'm manifesting. I'm like
manifesting for Guy.
I'm manifesting a bull market. Comes into the office, gets to chat with us all day.
Yeah, exactly. Which is the highlight of the day, of course. Yeah.
Shirley from the Coin Bureau Club, we eat at least 3 or 4 of the biscuits that you brought us when you came to visit the studio.
She brought a stockpile.
You brought a stockpile that is almost gone.
So that's the office treats.
That's the
typical office treats.
So that's like 11 till 3 p.m. It's like, you know, a few biscuits here and there.
Oh, another thing we did miss out in the morning routine, you cannot forget this, is watering the plants.
Oh, yes. Yes. If they are thriving in this office. So there's kind of a look at the plants, check how they're doing, and then like a little...
We've got so much oxygen in here, it's amazing. It's
the ventilation, the air purity.
You know, this is what allows us to create and ruminate on such great crypto ideas and crypto content, is because of all these great greenery and plants that Guy has kept healthy throughout the summer.
And we're manifesting money because there's so much green in the office too.
Yeah, that's how it would look. But we've actually, it's funny, because we actually did do a bit like this in London back in 2021 or something. Mm-hmm. I think it's on clips.
We'll find it.
It was also pretty cool. It was funny.
This was a day in the life of Guy, or this was a Guy gardening vlog?
No, a Guy, day in the life of Guy.
Day in the life of Guy.
Why would we do a Guy gardening vlog on a crypto channel?
Because we want to make sure our plants are thriving as much as they are in the office.
Jeez, would you guys watch a Guy gardening?
I think we should all do a day in the life. You've also guys who've said that we should do like a team workout vlog too. I think that could also be very funny.
A team workout vlog could be cool. I'm pretty certain it will get more views than a day in the life of the gardener.
We could do it. Yeah. Fun fact, I actually went to aerial yoga with Macy.
Oh, really?
About 3 days ago.
Oh, where was that?
In Dubai.
Whereabouts?
In Media City.
Aerial yoga, what is that? What's that?
You have this scarf strings and then you like hang from the ceiling. So maybe I can bring you and Guy, because you guys miss Macy too. We can
yoga. Can you imagine?
Well, what other workouts were you going to have us doing? It's good for your mind, your wellness. We could have like a cooling breathing session.
Why is aerial yoga better than normal yoga?
Because you hang upside down, so you also feel kind of cool, like a bit of a spider monkey. And it's good for your core.
And if you pass out?
Then you need to do it a few more times. You need to get your endurance up. I didn't think someone like you would be scared of endurance, Nick.
Endurance, I'm skeptical of it compared to the normal yoga.
Okay.
I mean, but maybe I should try. You know.
There we go, guys. Comment below what kind of video you would like us to do, and maybe during the summer months.
I think Guy has to join as well, because it has to be a teamwork.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So there's our idea for a day in the life of crypto Guy.
It evolved quite quickly.
Yeah. Cool, guys. Thanks a lot for all the questions. We love getting them, of course, and you know what to do if you want to submit. You follow our Instagram, which we'll have a link to down below. This has been fun, Jess. Thanks again,
Thank you, guys.
as always. And we will see you guys next week. Cheers.